They told you Africa was tribal, poor, backward. They told you Africa had no real history before colonialism. But what they didn't tell you is that long before European ships reached African shores, powerful kingdoms were already thriving, building cities, trading across continents, and leading armies. But what if I told you before colonialism, Africa had kingdoms richer than Europe, cities built of stone, and libraries older than Oxford? Let's rewind time before colonizers. Here are 5 African kingdoms that prove they lied to you about history. First, the Kingdom of Kush. Located in what is now Sudan, Kush rose after the fall of ancient Egypt and went on to become a dominant force in Northeast Africa. Its rulers once controlled Egypt itself, forming the famous 25th dynasty of pharaohs. Kushites built over 200 pyramids, more than Egypt, especially in the city of Meroe. They developed their own written script, known as Meroitic, and had powerful female monarchs called Kandakis, who commanded armies and held absolute authority. Kush thrived for centuries, trading gold, ivory, and iron along the Nile and into the Mediterranean. It finally declined around 350 CE after an invasion from the Axumite Empire. Second is the Empire of Mali. Located in West Africa, Mali rose in the 13th century and became one of the richest empires in history. Its most famous ruler, Mansa Musa, was so wealthy that his 1324 pilgrimage to Mecca caused a temporary economic collapse in parts of North Africa due to gold oversupply. Mali was not just about wealth. Its cities, especially Timbuktu, became global centers of learning and scholarship. Thousands of manuscripts were written on science, law, philosophy, and religion. Many of them still survive today. The empire began to decline in the late 1500s due to internal conflicts and foreign invasions. Third, the Kingdom of Axum. Axum was based in present-day Ethiopia and Eritrea, and it was one of the greatest trading empires of its time. The Kingdom of Axum stood as a powerful empire from the 1st century to nearly 1000 AD. It traded with Rome, Persia, and India, minted its own coins, and adopted Christianity in the 4th century, long before most of Europe. Axumite kings commissioned towering granite obelisks that still stand today. It was one of the most technologically and culturally advanced civilizations in Africa at the time. Axum's influence would shape Ethiopian identity for centuries. It eventually declined due to shifting trade routes and environmental changes. Fourth is Great Zimbabwe. Located in southern Africa, this was a powerful city-state that flourished between the 1100s and 1400s. This was Great Zimbabwe, the capital of a powerful kingdom that controlled gold and ivory trade routes stretching to the Indian Ocean. Its name means stone houses, and for good reason. The city was built from enormous stone blocks, all placed without mortar, forming towering walls and enclosures. The city housed up to 20,000 people. It was a center for gold and ivory trade, and artifacts found there show contact with China, India, and the Islamic world. For years, European colonizers tried to deny Africans had built it. Today, it stands as undeniable evidence of advanced architecture and statecraft in pre-colonial southern Africa. Fifth, the Kingdom of Ghana. This empire existed in West Africa from around 300 to 1200 CE, long before modern Ghana was formed. It controlled vital trade routes across the Sahara and became one of the richest regions in the world at the time. Arab historians wrote that gold was so abundant in Ghana that it seemed to grow from the ground. Ghana had a structured legal system, a powerful army, and a capital city where trade, diplomacy, and justice thrived. It eventually fell to invasions, but not before laying the foundation for later empires like Mali and Songhai. Africa before colonialism was not a land waiting to be discovered. It was already thriving with empires, economies, and cultures that rivaled anything in Europe or Asia. These stories were buried, but they're not lost. Now it's your turn. Which of these kingdoms surprised you the most? comment below and tag someone who still thinks Africa had no history.
You cannot discover a place that already has people living there. To the guy who said Africa was discovered by Europeans, let me teach you something. You don't discover a place where millions of people already lived, traded, built kingdoms, and developed complex systems long before Europeans touched Africans.
They came from Europe to invade our country. They took it. They have made us suffer. Now, it is absurd to say that we Africans were not in Africa when white people first came. And secondly, the conqueror writes history. They came, they conquered, and they wrote. Now, you don't expect people who came to invade us to write the truth about us. They will always write negative things about us. And they have to do that because they have to justify their invasion in all the countries. They could have come to our country and lived side by side with us. We didn't mind that. In fact, when they came, we said, come in, sit down, and they sat down and said, get
do
up.
you want to see the history, the true history of Africa? Here it is. Because, you know, we as Africans in the world, in the eyes of the world, or on the eyes of our colonizers or our oppressors, it is believed that Africa doesn't have its own history, because the history that we are using today is something that we were wrote. It is something that we were. It is said against us, but it's not something that we as Africans were the one who delivered and right, maybe saying speak about our history. That's why on the national media, on the, you never seen internationally the African cultures has been exposed. All that the African is being exposed of is about the crisis, the world wars, the wars, you know, the deserts, all these, the problems of Africans. But when it comes to the positivity of Africa, we as Africans were the only one who can speak about ourselves. We're the only one who have to speak about ourselves, because no one is ready to speak about ourselves. And whenever someone comes up to speak the voice of Africans, then he has to be taken down. This is what happened before. This is how Africa was before the landing of the missionary ships. Before the landing of the missionary ships, this is how Africa was. Africa was beautiful. Africa was very developed. Africa was creative. Africa was very, very, very well organized. But since they came to Africa, they developed. They divided Africa. They sat in Berlin during that conference and discuss on how they want to take over Africa, on how they want to come and split Africa, on how they want to come and divide Africa, so that they can get the chance to take over, to loot and to manipulate Africa. And through their discussion, they managed to achieve their missions, because after they landed in Africa, they make Africa look like it was. You have seen yourself. Africa has leadership. Africa has kingdoms. Africa was doing business. Africa was doing a trade, and it was very strong. But since they come and introduce border in Africa, since they come and introduce boundaries, and they introduce hatred, they introduce all that differences in religions, that's why they came and managed to capture Africa, because they believe in divide and conquer. So we have a long way to go. I like to speak about PLO Lumumba, the Kenyan professor, because he believes in the unity of Africa, and that's what he's speaking each and every day. Whenever he comes to speak out, he must speak about the unity of Africa. I like to speak about Julius Malema, because he is trying so hard to fight, to address the issues that concerns the unity of Africa, and that's why he's being hunted that way. That's why he's being called a dictator, because he's speaking about the unity of Africa. And that's why I like to speak about Ibrahim Traore, because he believes in unity. He believes in one Africa. He believes in African unity. He believes in freedom of Africa. He believes in African independence. We used to speak about the people who are now the late, like Lumumba, like Kwame Nkrumah, like all those people. But at this time, they are no longer, they are not alive. So even if we keep on speaking about them, they cannot help us. They try their best. They at least introduce something that at least our leaders who are coming to speak out today, they're speaking on behalf of them. They're speaking something that it was started by them. They're advocating a mission that was not that has not been started today, but there are some people who started it. So they're just here to push it and make it to be achieved. So when I speak about Ibrahim Traore, in Africa, when you want to as a leader or a head of state of Africa, when you want to your life to be short, or you want to your power to be terminated that short, you have to speak about the unity of Africa. That's the only crime, and the best crime that you will be seen committed because of speaking the unity of Africa. Yeah. So, but it depends, because of the people of that time, they were taken down because of what? Because they had no supporters, they had no numbers. Africans were not awake in those time. So at least at this time, they are speaking because they have the courage that the people of this time, of this generation, they're not of of that generation or past generation. The Africans of today is a very different generation because they know the history of Africa. They know who they are. They know what happens to the ancestors. They know what happens, how the life status was there before this generation came to this time. So as we came today and speak about this, we are speaking up because we know what we want, and we have the courage because we believe in the history. We believe in the history. That's why we are able, at least at this time, to raise our voice, to raise our concerns, because we believe that no one can come and at least at this time and manipulate Africa. But Africa will only be built towards the minds of Africans themselves. So when we speak about the revolutionary leaders like Ibrahim Traore, you know what? He is doing great towards Africa. He is doing great things towards Africa. You don't have just to fight for you to be seen that you are saving something, but your courage, your ideas, your mind is the only weapon that can help millions of people who depends on you. So the ideas, the plans of Ibrahim Traore is the only weapon that Africans are today using to protect themselves. Is the only weapon that Africans are using at least to stand by themselves. Is the only weapon at this time that we are depending on. And we believe that if we keep on and work towards what we are being told, then we are going to make what is needed. We are going to achieve what we need to be happen, what we need to be done. So it is not a must you come to the battlefield to fight for you to achieve what we want, but only your ideas, what you have, what you speak to the people, what you tell them, that is the only and only that matters a lot. So at this time, we are only working towards the ideas of these leaders. I came to one day through the speech of a Gambia president, and what he was speaking was something that was very important. He said that the leaders of today in Africa, they are doing things because they have no idea. And he's not ready to blame them, because when you don't have an idea, then you cannot achieve anything. You cannot do anything creative. For you to do anything in life and achieve or get it success, you have to base on your ideas. You have to base and focus on your plans. That's the only thing that will guide you through the way and make you to a destination. So they make Africa to believe that Africa never had the history. They came and introduced all that they introduced to Africa after the slavery, after the colonization. Africa got independent. But how do that independence helping Africa today? How the common humanity is enjoying the freedom or the independence of Africa? That's the question that we have to raise and ask ourselves. And that the same question, after asking ourselves, we have to ask ourselves: how are we enjoying or benefiting from the democracy and the free and the independence that we got or we fight for? Dr. Arikanas once said that during that handover of freedom, they had an agreement that you have to sign these documents, that we are agreeing and accepting to be colonized, yet you have the independent democracy on the other hand. And whoever refused to sign those documents, then there was a gun on their pockets. Either you sign or the gun to be used towards you. So it was by yourself to choose what you want. So at this time, what we are trying to do is to make sure that the freedom and the independence that our freedom fighters fought for and died fighting for it, it has to work. It has to be activated. It has to work as it is intended to work. They came and discovered Africa. So funny, because how can you discover a place that lives millions of people? How can you discover a place that has their own kingdoms? How can you discover a place that people are living their life? They produce their foods. They protect themselves. Those times when they came to Africa, Africa never had the hospitals. There was nothing like surgeries. There was nothing like going for labor rooms. There was nothing like going to hospital to be admitted. And Africans were not dying as this time they are dying. We never had something like Allah, like God, like all those names that were introduced as the religions. But we were believing in our own gods, and things were working out. Of course. So this is the part side of Africa that they cannot speak about, and they cannot show the world. But we as Africans, we are here to do it. We are here to do it and to deliver the message to the world. Africa was the greatest, is the greatest, not just was, but it is the greatest invention. The Africans are the greatest inventors, because Africans are doing great things in the world. But all that they are doing cannot be shown to the world. If you are seen today or recognize that this is what you have to do, and it seems to be unique, that has never been experienced somewhere else, then they cannot allow you to live. Unless they come and take out or take away your idea, so that don't need electric or fuel. So Africans, we have a lot to do. We have a lot to do to prove to the world that we can do it by ourselves, that we have to tell the world who we are. Thanks for the Ibrahim Traore for gathering Africa, for bringing Africa together to do what they are doing today. For Africa to be wherever it is, where it is today, it is for the strength of Captain Ibrahim Traore, because he's the one who has taken over the country in the continent of Africa, and he's the one who is giving directives to all the African leaders, whether they like it or not, whether they love him or not. They have to do what Ibrahim Traore is requesting them to do, because it is not their will to do it, but it is the will of the Africans, or the African, the common citizens. So we are not going to work as per their demands, but we are going to work towards the Ibrahim Traore's will, because we believe that this is the only light and the only hope that Africans at this time we are having. I will not take much of your time this kind. So if this is your first time to visit this channel, kindly subscribe so that we can move together, we can speak together, we can speak one voice. Thank you for your time, and maybe I can say that maybe we will be blessed. Thank you for the returning subscribers. I love you very much, and peace out.